Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Rookie Division in the Fuji Open Tournament. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Let's go. We're going to play this par 3 first, which is very open and I would say one of the easier par 3s that we do have in the game. And we're going to play 20% downhill, so you need to add that to your adjustment. So you add the 20% to the wind and from there you get your ring adjustments. We are going to play in tailwind 3.5 bar backspin. We're going to play in crosswind 3 bars of backspin, and in headwind we're going to play 2.5 bar. And the thing that we do want to do is to aim slightly to the left of the pin and to let the ball fall down towards the right for a possible hole-in-one. Power zero ball is perfect in this position, as we do not need any power on this one and we don't really need anything else. Then the only thing could be that we might want to have a little bit of wind resistance. Hole number 2, we go directly into the action using a quarterback with the 3 bars of topspin and as much side spin to the right possible. Using a quasar so we can get the side spin, so we can get in as much to the right possible. The further we get into the right, the easier it's going to be to dial in the dunk from distance, because here I feel honestly that the dunk is the best option here. Using this type of adjustment as our opponent here is like, if he just hits that one slightly wrong or slightly short, then that ball will be in the bunker all day and every day, and that's not something that we do want to do. We want at least that the ball should stay on the green. The drive is going to be 10% downhill, so we need to add that to our adjustment. For the second shot, we're going to play that one uphill. So here we need to subtract the 10% to our adjustment due to the uphill approach. And here you can see I'm having a thorn, and that's one key thing on this hole as well. Use clubs with backspin. Saturn as a long iron if you have it unlocked, otherwise the one with the most backspin after that. And the thorn as a short iron. Even though the thorn might be in a low level, the backspin is very valuable while approaching this pin that stands very short on the green. Aim for the back of the cup. And then it is important with a dunk that you do know the ring adjustment for your club. So check it out, check it up if you haven't done that already, and then you're gonna have a very nice chance to making an eagle. Boom! So we go to hole number 3, and here we're going to be a couple of holes of the Gokasho Bay that comes in a row now, and all of them is going to be old recordings, so the visual ain't going to be the same. The way that we play the holes is going to be the same though, so that's not going to be a change. And that's the important part for me to address here, is that even though it's older recordings, it's due to that it's not possible to find them from the front tee in the regular tour play. But I do want to display the way to play these holes before the tournament starts, and therefore we're using the old ones here. We are not going to do as our opponent did, use the left side. We're going to use the right side for a more simpler drive here. We're going to use the driver that gives us the most distance possible, and that combined with a driver that gives us 4 bars of topspin minimum. And for that we do need an extra mile, and it doesn't have to be an extra mile level 6. It could be a lower level extra mile that's still going to have 4.5 bar topspin. And here the only thing that I would change for this drive is that I would like to play this one with a quasar, or as worst with a marlin, as we do want a side spin there into the left. Now I'm using curl to the left instead because I do not have the side spin to use here. We're going to bounce here over the rough and gain as much distance possible here on the next fairway, because now we put ourselves in a spot where we do have 2 options. We're gonna come to that just in a bit. Last but not least, with the drive, use a 10% extra adjustment due to the slight downhill approach for your shot there. So now we do have 2 approaches, as I said. If you do have a straight crosswind, and I mean straight now, then we're going to use the rough bump. The reason I say only with straight crosswind is because the rough bump is more thin, or the rough to play on is more thin now than it was before when this recording was made. So therefore in a straight side wind or a crosswind, then we're going to use the rough bump. Otherwise we're going to either go on the platform that our opponent is using here to bounce ourselves over towards the pin, or that we're going to go directly at the pin by using a club with a lot of backspin, which could be the Guardian, or let's say like this, the only club to do that with is the Guardian from distance, in my opinion. Our opponents try to bounce over, cuts the rough, roll on to the fringe. Not going to be a problem to save the eagle, but this is going to, especially when the rough bump is so tiny nowadays, it's going to be very tough to make an albatross here in a consistent way. So you really have to think about the fact that, okay, if you're not having straight crosswind, then it's up for us to find a way that we can secure the eagle in a better way. And now you can see the ball guideline. The ball guideline is going way too far through the hole, as we are not having a fully developed the ball guideline on the Viper level 8, and therefore it's going to go way hot here coming in towards the pin. Slight adjustment here, because now we're going for the rough bump or going just for a regular approach. We're not going to add or subtract anything for the second shot, as it's not going to be played downhill or uphill in any form. Bouncing the rough, you can see we're coming in hot, not really even close. Hole number 4, another course of the Gokasho Bay, and here we are going to play bouncing on the fairway over the bunker and gain as much distance possible to lay up for a long iron shot. I would say that here, with having crosswind or having headwind, we should be laying up on the left side using club, which would be the quarterback, combined with a ball that gives us at least a power 1 and side spin 2, which would make the Quasar a perfect ball for us to use on that particular shot. The reason I say left side and not right side is because on right side it requires, yeah, I would say sure, a great shot could be okay sometimes, but most of all, we most likely need to have a perfect shot, because otherwise we're going to go into the rough or going to go into the sand, and then we're going to not be able to reach for the pin in 2, and that's going to be tough. The drive is going to be played downhill, so we have to add the 10% extra for our adjustment with the drive as well. If you're going to play on the left as our opponent is doing, please make sure that you're playing with as minimum a power 1 ball, because the difference from the approach that we are going to have combined with our opponent is that our opponent is going to play with a wood club, we are going to play with a long iron. There is one other thing that could happen on this hole, is that if we do get a straight tailwind, then we should use a power 3 ball and go full blast down the right, or like the middle, or whatever we can call it, and then to lay up for either a short iron shot or a wedge shot towards the pin. Here you can see we're very close to max distance, using a club with a decent amount of backspin to aim up before the pin. I would use less backspin here to bounce towards the pin. Here you can play this shot in different ways, of course. The only important part is to try to find a line that you do get a consistent first bounce. And we're also going to over adjust the second shot 10%. That is a must. So we're going to line up and adjust it a little bit for the wind. And then we're going to take our shot. It looks like it's uphill, but this ball is going to be affected a little bit more by the wind than normal. Anyway, so we go to hole number 5. Hole 5 is a par 3. And this part of the is super tough, and especially when you play from the front tee, because you're not having a sniper level 10 as our opponent is showing here, and you're not having like upgraded Goliaths and backbones either. So there is a way that I'm going to show here, which I think is perfect for players with lower level clubs. And I would say the Guardian, even though it would be in level 1 or level 2, would be a perfect club for this type of shot. That is that we're going to go directly over the bunker and approach the pin. And you're going to see it here now. I'm having a Guardian level 5, and I'm going to use as much backspin as possible and aim for the pin. And you can see that I'm aiming for the beginning of the fringe, and the tip of the ball guideline is past the pin. But that is because the amount of backspin here is super helpful for the ball, that you can aim past the pin and the ball will fall back a little bit and help you in that way. If you do not have a club like the Guardian with that backspin, then you have to play to the left using a long iron with side spin. So a Katana would be the perfect ball using with a Goliath club to bounce yourself up towards the pin. Nonetheless, a very tough par 3 and something that we'll have to have in mind. And also for the hole number 5 that I forgot to say, 20% extra. Super important with that extra due to the elevation there. Hole number 6, here we play the par 5 with the par 5 here. I'm going to try to get over the rough and the sand directly. And that we're going to do by using a driver with a with at least a 225 yards of power, combined with a power 3 ball. You can make it over with a power 1 or power 2 ball as well, but I want us to play with a power 3 ball, as it gives us the amount of distance that will help us to in some way go with less overpower if we do have a straight tailwind. And I think that is a very important lesson to have in mind, so we do not push it with a power 1 ball and we end up in the rough or into the sand. Now we are in between clubs, and here it's up to you to decide: are you going to play with topspin with your long iron, or are you going to play with backspin with your wood club? And as I don't have that much backspin with my Viper, then it's a pretty easy decision, and I'm going to play with my long iron with some topspin instead. The drive should be 10% downhill, and that we need to add to our adjustment. The second shot is also going to be 10% extra due to the slight downhill approach, and whenever we play downhill the ball is affected more by the wind. That's why we are adding to our adjustment. And with that shot being made, we are going to go to hole number 7, which is the last par 3 in this tournament, and we're going to play directly over the rough and the sand. And this is also a green here, where the green is going to be slightly different from how it looks now. And the difference is that this green is very flat and is very forgiving. As you just get it up there to the green, the ball is going to fall down towards the pin, and you're either going to be super close or you're going to get the ball in the hole. The difference is that you do have a mound now where the pin stands on, which is going to make it harder to get it very close. But if you just dial this shot in, and then you're definitely going to see a lot of hole-in-ones on this par 3. One of the easier par 3s we do have in the whole game to make to make a birdie on, in my opinion. 10% extra we need to do. We are going to use all from 0 to 1.5 bar backspin, and of course 0 we use with headwind, 1 bar we are using with some sort of crosswind, and then we use 1.5 if we do have a tailwind, and then we're going to be close. Hole number 8, which is the final par 4, and here I'm going to play with a power 0 ball, and we're going to use the right side of these two options. I know there is a way to play on the left side as well, and I think if you play with superior clubs, as our opponent is going to do, then you're going to see a very nice and easy way to play on the left side. The reason I do not like to play on the left side due to headwind and crosswind is because of the water, and also due to the rough, because we know in tournaments we're going to have the same wind, well, not the same strength, but the same wind angle with every type of shot. So if we do miss on the left side going short, having headwind towards the pin, it would be very tough for us to reach with our lower level rough irons or sand wedge towards the pin. So I lay up to the top right, and there the only change I would do there is to play with a quarterback instead of an extra mile to give myself the better accuracy and the better ball guideline. Our opponent, as you can see, he's playing with an Apocalypse level 5, trying to clear the rough. And here is important: if you do try this route, make sure that you clear the rough, because shooting from the rough is never going to be easier than shooting from the fairway, as the needle speed is going to be tougher, or like quicker, and therefore it's going to be tougher for you to hit perfect. So this one is going to end up in the rough, and I feel that playing down there to the left, a power 3 ball minimum, and you can also play with a power 5 ball if you do have someone like one from the golden shot, for an example. The drive from the left is going to be 20% extra. The drive to the right, like we did, is 10% extra. And now for the second shot from the right is going to be 20% downhill towards the pin. It's a very downhill approach, and therefore we'll have to add, due to the ball being affected more by the wind, 1 or 2 bars of backspin. But here you can see, if you're having a headwind, I would definitely prefer to not play with a power 0 ball. Use a power 2 ball or a power 3 ball. Give yourself the distance, so you do not have to struggle with being in between clubs or having to use overpower if you're making a lousy drive. So we take our shot, we hit the ball perfect. It's gonna come down very nicely towards the pin and bounce, and if we're lucky enough, we're gonna get it in the hole for a nice little eagle on hole number 8. Last but not least, we're going to play hole number 9, one of the Sakura Hills, one of the courses that hasn't been in a tournament for a very long time, but I do believe this hole is a very nice one to end up with, because it's a tricky one. We do have all the trees there in the center that all of them are in play. So stay away from those, because if you get in there, in the rough there, you will not be able to reach for the green in 2. I'm choosing to play on the right side, and I'm playing with a mauling ball here as I'm playing with extra mile. But I would say that watching this video now, I would say to change that ball. Play with a power 2 or a power 3. Give yourself the distance if you do have a couple of katanas, so you maybe have a couple of titans that you can use. The reason being is that then we don't have to stretch out. We don't have to think about distance, especially not for the first shot, but also not for the second shot. Because now I pack the big dog, and the big dog is not accurate in any form, and it's not having a good ball guideline, especially not in a lower level. And therefore I would love to play with another club if I could. But the reason I have the big dog is due to playing with the Marlin, but as it power 0, and I do want to risk minimize my play here on this hole. So I do know that with a big dog in my bag, I can go short with my drive by accidentally hitting the rough and roll out and still be able to reach, which I wouldn't be able to if I would be playing with the Viper that has less distance, but having and then having a Marlin ball which is power 0. So in my book, perfect if you have all the balls to choose between, power 2 or power 3 ball with a Viper or a sniper towards the pin. Now you can see we can reach for the rough bump. They're very close towards the pin, but that one is a very, very thin one, and so I rather suggest you to back up using backspin. And here we do want to use at least 4 bars of backspin when we do have some slight tailwind here that we're having. If we would be having headwind, 3.5 would be perfect. Crosswind, I would say 4 still would be good. We don't want to come in too hot, because if we do come in too hot, we will hit the pin and we will fall out from the cup. Last, I would say, if you do have a straight tailwind, you can use the left side approach of the drive. Try to gain as much distance as possible, but then it's important that you do have a lot of backspin on your club for the second shot to be able to get the ball to stay on the green. So the drive here for hole number 9 is 10% extra. The second shot is 10% extra as well. We need to add that due to the downhill approach where the ball is affected more by the wind. So that was the playthrough for Rookie Division in the Fuji Open Tournament. If you do want to get the text guide for the Fuji Open Tournament, sign up at patreon.com/golfclashtommy. Link can you find in the video description down below. Also, you can find timestamps in this playthrough, so for this playthrough in the video description. So if you do not want to watch like hole 2 for example, you can jump to a different hole directly by pressing on that timestamp. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Good luck in the Fuji Open Tournament.